Good morning, I'm Maria from the Rich and Simple Living. Today's Friday, so we're coming with a vlog. Today I'm going to talk about something a bit topicy, if that's a word, topicy, something of topic. What we're going to be talking about is the jab, basically. I don't need to say what jab, I think you all know what jab I mean. I've been hearing of a lot of people who are quite worried about it because they're bringing it out for children of 12 to 15 years of age. Well, I've been doing a bit of research into what they're doing, and I found some more worrying stuff than just 12 to 15-year-olds. At the moment, what they're saying is that it's going to be rolled out in schools, and well, basically, yes, that's what they do, get the jabs in the schools. They're saying that there will be parental permission, but there is a thing they're saying as well, that they're going to override it. Well, I've wrote a few notes anyway, because I read in the paper, I've been looking in the paper, and this was just yesterday morning. Can't remember which paper it was, and I don't know how far you can go to believe newspapers, because you often find a report in one and a report in another. But this has got quotes from, is it the Health Secretary, who's been saying these things. So I'll just run you through it basically. I jotted it down and we'll just run through it. One of the main things that he's been saying is that children, quote, will prevail, unquote, if they're at odds with their parents about whether or not to get the jab. And this is what the Health Secretary has said. So that's the worry for most people. That is the biggest worry, I think, for most people. I'll go on to tell you a bit more. That says that they're awaiting on a decision at the moment, which we all know about the jab, despite the fact that the Joint Committee on Vaccinations and Immunisations has said that it isn't worth jabbing 12 to 15-year-olds. Now, this was a couple of days ago. I saw that come up in the news, because I have the news things connected to my phone, and it come up if there's like a headline, and that came up that they had said no, they don't need to be vaccinated. No vaccinations for 12 to 15-year-olds. The day after, the Health Secretary and ministers were saying, oh, yes, they do need vaccinating, and we're going to make the decision. So it seems like they're overriding scientists or whatever it is, the committees that deal with these sort of things. It seems like they're overriding their decisions because for some unknown reason, they are desperate to get this jab out there to children now in school. They're saying that, oh, well, it's to stop, people having time off school, disrupting all the school lessons and everything. But they didn't say that when they closed school down for months and months on end. And, they weren't as concerned then to get them back into school. But now this is the excuse they're using, that they have got to jab 12 to 15-year-olds. So, yeah, government ministers are now saying that they could overrule the advice and go ahead anyway, despite what the immunisation committees are saying. They can overrule that, and it looks like they probably will. They're saying that consent will be gained from parents, as is the normal case, as we normally do. They always send letters to you if they're in school, send letters home asking for permission, because I know Sean did with the flu jabs. So yeah, when they sent the letters home, all you had to do was either say you wanted the vaccination or you didn't, and you just signed it, whichever choice you made, and that was that. So they were either didn't get the flu vaccination, or they did, depending on what you put, and they did that at school. Although, having said that, last year Sean got a letter from the doctors here, because obviously she isn't at school, and the doctor sent a letter here because it goes on their record, so they can see who's had what wherever they are by their records. So they knew she hadn't had a flu vaccination. Well, it's not vaccine, it's like a thing up the nose, and they could see she hadn't had it, and they sent for her here. But yeah, looking down at my notes. But yeah, what they're saying though is that they will ask the parents' permission as normal, but should the parents say no, decline, but yet the child is, well, they didn't say if the child is actually saying the opposite. They didn't say if the child says anything. What they're just actually saying is that if they think a child is competent enough, can't say that word, competent enough to make a decision, then they, quote, will prevail, unquote. So it seems like they're going to ask children, probably. If parents say no, I mean, I don't know if this is a case, it's not saying that, this is reading between the lines. Will they actually ask the children whose parents have refused consent what they want to do? Because they're saying that if there is a difference of opinion between the parent and the child, then they've got specialists that will sit down with the parent and the child and speak to them until a decision is made. But they will allow a child's decision to go ahead in the overall outcome, is what the newspaper report is basically saying. Not word for word, but that's the gist of what they're saying, that the government are saying. So therefore, if you're in schools, this says, and the parents sign a letter as no consent, then they can get a specialist in who works in the area of the school vaccinations. They will come in, they will call you in and speak to parent and child, and if they see that the child has got a difference of opinion, or maybe can be swayed to have a difference of opinion, then they will go with what the child says. Now, that's always bad at school because, you know, most of us have probably been to school and know what schools are like. Children egg each other on to do things, or, oh, you have it, it'll be great, go on, you have it, I'll do it if you do it, and that sort of thing. And despite what the parents say, they won't understand all the worries about it, possible side effects, and, you know, anything to do with it. I'm not saying it's a bad thing to have, because I don't know. That's just the thing. None of us really know. Because if one committee is saying, well, there's no need for it, then the government seem to be saying, yes, you've got to have it, we want them to have it. It's a bit worrying. I mean, there's nothing wrong if you choose to have your child to have a vaccine. There's nothing wrong in that. I mean, you'll have looked into it, as adults you'll have looked into it, and if you're happy with that, that's good, there's nothing wrong with that. But this is more to the parents who don't want to have their children vaccinated. You know, the ways that the government are going to get round that. But that's not the main worry. What really worried me as I read this was, we'll do a reading in a minute, Sean. It's all right, Sean's just finished doing the Viking work and we're going to do some reading in a bit. But what does worry me is where it's going to stop, and this is what I've read as I read another newspaper report, which says children as young as 5 could be next to be given the jab, because trial data is being submitted to regulators this month. They're saying that by the end of this month, the trial data that they've been running on 5 to 11-year-olds is going to be submitted. So it's not stopping at 12 to 15-year-olds. Data is being submitted for children as young as 5. So the 5 to 11 section is next. But that's not it. I found more. I found where it said in the newspapers that a pharmaceutical giant said that it has done some trials to test 2 doses in children as young as 6 months old. That's right, 6 months old, a baby. So does this mean then that they're looking toward these jabs being part of the immunisation jabs that young children get from when they're babies? is it going to be heading that way? In which case, schools won't even enter into it because they don't go to school. So it's going to be something that's be done with your GPs. So therefore, the chances are, whether our children go to school or whether they're homeschooled, I think that they will be sent for about, well, will be written to and asked about a jab. All of us homeschool mums will probably receive letters through the post, like we did for ourselves for the jabs. The children who don't go to school, because it will all be on record who's had it and who hasn't, and it'll all be in the GP's surgeries, and they will go through and they'll see, they'll know, and they will send you a letter, send me a letter, whatever, about our children having the jab. So that's a bit worrying, because if you don't want to have it, then, you know, homeschooling isn't going to be a way out of that. So, yeah, and like I say, if they're doing it with children, is it going to become part of a regular immunisation thing, like they have from when they're babies? So, yeah, they'll know who's had it and who hasn't had it. And I was sitting thinking about this, and I've been looking at it, and it really struck me, because I thought, well, because I know that the clinic had sent me a letter in regards to Sean for having a flu vaccination last year, then there's nothing stopping them doing it for this jab. And I believe they will, because obviously if now they're looking at getting younger and younger, you're getting into the years where they've not even started school. So, yeah, I think it will go on NHS data that's held in your GP surgery, and that'll be sent from there. So we'll still get letters, probably not as soon as what the schools get them, school-attended children. We'll probably receive them a bit after that. But at some point, if this is all allowed to go through, at some point, we are all going to get letters about immunising our children. Like I say, I mean, if you want to do that, there's nothing wrong with that, because you adults, you'll read through it and you make a decision. We all make decisions on different things. We don't all have to have the same decisions, you know, but I was just concerned about people who were worrying about it. And I think it's good to keep your eye on the ball. You've got to keep your eye on the ball, what's happening. Got to keep reading. Like I say, information in newspapers can vary, it can change, but so can government. Can you always believe that? But no, seriously, things do change, and you've got to keep your eye on it and decide what you want to do, look into things, and try and keep one step ahead of it all, really. That's all we can do. That's all we can do. I mean, personally, me and my husband have been vaccinated. We've done that, and that was our decision. We're fully grown adults, that was our decision. We're both over 50, and now they're talking about bringing out extra jabs for the over 50s. We've decided we're not doing that. There's no need to do that. We've already had the 2, so if the 2 aren't enough, what's the point of more? So, and our 2 weren't all that long ago, so it's not like a year has elapsed like they do with you know, like your flus and things like that. So a year won't have elapsed by the end of winter. Our year won't have elapsed until the middle of next summer. So, because we've not that long ago had them. So there's no need for us to do that. So we're not doing that, not having the 3rd one. And neither do I really want Sean to have it either. I mean, I've said she can make her own mind up when she's 18, but there might come a point before that where we think, well, this isn't such a bad thing. It's fared out okay. We will go ahead with it. But like I say, it's part of keeping your eye on the ball and seeing what's happening. Try not to get too, you know, upset about it all, or too worried about it. Just keep reading and rely on your own instincts and your own common sense when you're reading things. If you're not sure of anything, you know, don't do it now. I mean, I'm quite lucky with Sean because Sean is pretty good at making her own mind up whether she wants something or not. An example, recently she's been at the dentist and she had to go to the orthodontics because they wanted her to have a brace. She's got like one tooth that protrudes slightly in front of the other. So she went through all the things in the orthodontics, having all the exams done and x-rays for the teeth, for the brace and everything. Then she goes for the last appointment. By this time she decided she didn't want to wear a brace, so she went in on her own because it was all the time of the lockdown and I wasn't allowed in with her. I had to wait outside the building. She went in on her own and she told them she didn't want to have it done. So the nurse rang me up from inside the room and the orthodontist saying that Sean doesn't want to do it. Can I come outside and speak to you? And she's come out and she said she doesn't want it doing. She's saying no. She says, yeah, sorry about that. I had a little interruption then. Yeah, so the orthodontist came out to talk to me and she said she didn't see any harm in her not having it. A bite was okay. So Sean was like glad. She'd made that decision. She didn't want it. Everything was okay. She didn't need to have it. So she's made that decision and we went along with her decision. So she knows when she doesn't want something and she says she doesn't want the jab. So I feel pretty confident that she'll turn around and say, well, no, not at this moment in time. But the only downside for us is Sean suffers asthma. So we get a feeling we'll be sent a letter sooner rather than later about it all. Then we'll have to explain more so why we don't want it. Because the big worry is, I actually saw like a video, you know how the newspapers, they have little clips on with like little video things and you press play and listen to them. And he got this bit, my parents won't let me have the jab. And these children, the way they were talking, now the faces were blanked out, possibly actors. I don't believe that they were children being interviewed for this. I think they were actors. There's a bit of propaganda going on there. And they were saying, oh, my parents won't let me have it and they don't understand. And it was going along lines, the more I watched it, like parents were really bad, really wicked parents. And I'm thinking, you know, they'll have the social called in saying things like that. And then I suddenly thought, would that be the next step? If we turned around and said, like me with Sean having asthma, and saying, no, we don't want it doing, and you know, whatever. Would they turn around and say, oh, well, actually, you're putting her health at risk, you're a bad parent, in comes the social services and take her off? Or warn us if we don't do it, they'll take her off into a safer place. Who knows? We don't know. But it's all getting quite bad out there. It's all getting quite bad. You've got to keep looking at it. You've got to keep one step ahead of it all the time. It's not very good. So, yeah. I did want to talk about that today because although like under a couple of posts we've had a couple of conversations with people about it, also away from YouTube, and people are talking about it and everything, and it's a bit of a worry. Even people who are saying, well, yeah, we'll let our children have it done, they're still a little worried about it. So I just wanted to talk about it's briefly, just to say what I found when I looked into it, what I've seen, how far it looks like it's going to be going, right down to young children. Not going to stop at 11 to 15-year-olds. It is going down further because, like I said, trial data is being submitted to regulators by the end of this month, and that's for 5 to 11-year-olds. And they've already started doing some trials on 6-month-olds. So it is going to go on. It's not going to stop where it is. And I do believe that the government will pass it because whatever they say, it seems to pass anyway. So, yeah. So just thinking really, in conclusion, that if you're happy with it, that's good, that's okay. You know, don't worry about it because obviously you feel confident enough, that's fine. You're not just going to do things willy-nilly. I know you'll be confident enough to do that, but there's people like myself who are not, well, I don't know, not so confident, but don't really want to do that at the moment in time. Not saying in my own case never will, but, you know, people who don't want to do that. So I wanted to point out how it's going, how it could possibly go, and that we just need to be aware of everything that's happening, really. So yes, I think that whether they're in school or whether they're homeschooled, I don't think in the long run that's going to make a difference. I don't think that we'll be overlooked because we're homeschooled. We'll get something from the GP surgery, probably at a bit later date than the others. So yeah, I just wanted to come on and say that, and just say what findings I'd found. So with that, I hope I haven't distressed you too much. I'm sure it's not all going to be bad, but we'll just keep an eye on it. So yeah, anyway, it's Friday, so I shan't see you now till Tuesday. Hopefully Tuesday we'll have another homeschool vlog, perhaps have another flick through one of the books Sean's doing, because I'm hoping to go through all the books that she's doing, give you a flick through, because people often ask me about the books, oh, what's that book like and whatnot. And so I thought each time I can just do a flick through and a chat about each book and how we do it and whatnot, and perhaps throw a bit of something else in that she does of her own resources. So I thought that would be quite good. So we'll probably do that on Tuesday. I don't know what book yet. Might do German, actually. Might do German. Show you the German book she uses on Tuesday. We'll do that. Quick decision. So yeah, until Tuesday then, have a good weekend and take care, everybody. Bye.